The unionized positions. They can't put my hair up.
Yeah, look how good his looks. I'm sorry.
Oh, boy.
Good evening, everyone. We will open the special meeting of the Tri-State Council, and I would ask everyone to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. And how about Councilmember Conley Wilson lead us in the pledge? Thank you. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Councilmember Conley Wilson. Thank you for joining us this evening. Maria, roll call, please.
Councilmember Gully,
Here.
Councilmember Ashman Pearson, Councilmember Steele,
Present.
Councilmember Men,
Here.
Councilmember Conley Wilson,
Present.
Councilmember Soriento,
Here.
Council President Mantello.
I am here.
All 7 are present.
Okay, presentation of the agenda. We are in a special meeting this evening, not something that the council, unfortunately, something we have to do. And it's very unfortunate. So we have a resolution sponsored by Councilmember Steele at the request of the administration, the mayor. We'll open it up to the public forum right now. So if anyone would like to speak from the public, we welcome our 2 visitors. May I ask your names? Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much. Did you come down for this specific resolution? Thank you. Thank you for joining us. Thank you. And the folks out there that are joining us, we thank you also. The mayor actually wrote this resolution, and Mr. Mayor, we can even move the podium to the middle a little more. I like to move it to the side at the beginning because I can't see folks. And you actually couldn't see me earlier. Mr. Mayor, we are going to ask you to share your thoughts with us. That one may not be working. It's been shorting off and on lately.
Testing.
Very good. All right.
Just got to have the touch.
Yeah. So thank you for joining us, Mr. Mayor, and resolution 68. And then we'll chat. Thank you.
All right. So well, thank you. I'm sorry I did feel the need to call you in on a night. It looks like a charming evening out there, and I'm sure there are other things you could think of doing, but I think that this is really critically important to address and to address quickly. With all due respect to those who are observing moments of silence around the country this past actually 10 days, almost 14 days now, this is anything but the time for silence. The grieving people in Uvalde, Texas, Buffalo, New York, San Bernardino, California, and the 248 other communities around the country that have endured mass shootings this year alone, they do not need our silence. They need our voices. They need our voices now. They need our action now. If prayers and moments of silence could stop these self-inflicted tragedies, we wouldn't feel the pain that we all feel in this moment. Thoughts and prayers are just not stopping the bullets. This is a democracy, and there is broad bipartisan support for common sense measures that can reduce these tragedies. Measures that, if enacted, could save parents the horrible realization that their child was ripped apart by battlefield armaments and there was nothing they could do about it. The realization that their child died alone, terrorized, crying out for them, and there was nothing they could do. Why? For what? So that I could have the liberty to play with weapons of war at the gun range? Really? Really? The United States of America is facing an existential question. Are our children worth as much to us as our assault weapons? Majorities in this country support universal background checks. They support bans on assault rifles. They support red flag laws. Why don't they happen? Why is the will of the majority thwarted on these issues? Is it because in our moments of silence and prayer, the gun lobby is writing checks? Why can't we just do what the majority of us agree on? Let's take the non-controversial steps. Will it be enough? Absolutely not. But will it be of some value? Most certainly. If we can't find the political will to take the big necessary steps, then let's take the little ones. But for God's sake, let's do something. Republicans hold an outsized voice in this discussion because it is the Republican leadership that is blocking even common sense legislation that the majority of the country supports. I believe that many of them would take measured steps if they felt support behind them, even in this divisive time. My voice to them is not going to carry the weight of my Republican colleagues. So I plead with the Republicans on the City Council and all of my Republican friends to reach out to your leaders and tell them to do something, to make some effort. I don't wish to hear from anyone ever again how horrible these massacres are, unless with the next breath you tell me what you are doing about it. This is a national embarrassment. This is a disgrace. And our inaction only compounds that tragedy. And our inaction calls on each of us to question our own culpability. Let me repeat that. Our inaction calls on each of us to question our own personal culpability. In a democracy, you don't get to throw up your hands and give up. Policy is made as much by our inaction as it is by our action. Not participating in democratic dialogue is participating. It is ceding your voice to others. If you do not act, if you do not make an effort to change the course, you have no moral standing to complain. The resolution I have placed before you this evening is simply a request for Congress to take the easy step of doing what 80 to 90% of this country wants them to do. I am begging Washington to give us some help to address the carnage that we see across this country on a daily basis. They need to stop standing behind their talking points and their bumper sticker philosophies. Do something. Pass universal background checks. Pass red flag laws. Nearly everyone can agree on those two issues. Tonight, I ask the council to join me in this plea. Let our voice join all those demanding action from our federal government. Last week, you were able to quickly pass legislation protecting the right of kids to play ball in the streets. I cannot imagine that we cannot act with any less haste to pass legislation that protects our children's right to attend school without being slaughtered, to walk down the street without fear of stray bullets, to go to the grocery store and worry about coming out alive. Valley, Texas is a long way from here. But there have been at least 27 other school shooting events so far this year, 119 since 2018. There is nothing about Troy that makes it less likely to happen here than in all those other cities. We are not immune. What are we doing? I hope we can find common ground in this resolution, and I'm available for your questions and comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you very much. Maria, Resolution 68.
Resolution 68, resolution urging Congress to adopt common sense gun reform measures. Councilmember Steele at the request of the administration.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Motion, Councilmember Conley Wilson. Is there a second?
Second.
Second, Councilmember Men. That was very odd. Okay, Councilmember Conley Wilson motion, Councilmember Men seconded. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, for bringing this forward. As you stated, it's something none of us want to have to meet on, but we do. Okay, is there a loose wire? Can you check it?
It's like still on. It's just, it's the computer, it's the TV.
Okay.
No, he's there.
Jim, you're still with us?
I am here. I'm at
Perfect.
Powers Park.
Okay, thank you. Maria, I'm going to take a slow roll. We can discuss discussion, and I do plan to take a slow roll. Councilmember Ash McPherson.
Okay, so first of all,
Oh, the public forum, somebody just texted me. I apologize. I opened it prior. Would you like to speak, Carlo? You're fine. Go ahead. Go ahead. No, go ahead. It's okay. You missed it, but go ahead.
Is this thing working here?
Yeah.
Yep, just pull it right up. Yep.
So, yeah, I mean, I listened to the mayor and I understand what's going, what he was speaking about, and I understand, but he did mention something about at the, while he was speaking, at the hands of us going to gun ranges and stuff. Anybody who knows me, I'm an advocate hunter. I belong to a gun club. I own firearms, and I teach my kids, how to, the safety of them. My daughter this year, for the first time, went hunting with me. I don't think stricter gun laws is going to change the demographic of what's happening. Criminals will get tools to hurt anybody. Anyway, and the thing is, we call them weapons. The weapon is the individual who hurt somebody. The tool is what they use to hurt them with, which in this case, unfortunately, in Texas and Boston, was the weapon. The problem that we have in New York State is what Governor Cuomo did with bail reform. You guys want to change something? Make a legislation, change bail reform. Get rid of these criminals, get them off the streets. Just last year, how many shootings did we have in Kim's district? How many shootings did we have in Irene's, Wilson's district, Emily's district? This year alone, the first 12 weeks, we had 11 shootings in the city of Troy. Why is that? They were all criminals. They weren't legal guns. They were guns that were sold on a black market, stolen from someone's house, stolen from a real gun owner like me. This law is not going to do anything. This law is not going to help us out at all. What we need is to get our courts to put people away and hold them accountable and keep them in jail. I mean, you look at it, and you also mentioned, Republicans. Why is it that the most states with the most shootings are all Democratic governors? Because they keep putting them out on the streets. They keep letting everybody out. This bail reform and all these laws do not hold criminals accountable because they say, well, we should give them a second chance. Okay, give them a second chance. But when it's their third and their fourth or their fifth, put them away. That's it. We deal with way too much of this. I see it in cities that they don't care. They how do you say it? They appease the criminals more than they do the law-abiding citizens. People like him and I, who are law-abiding citizens, I shouldn't have to go through a 14-day wait to buy a gun. I do it, but I shouldn't have to. You get what I'm saying? I just
Totally.
don't
Thank
think
you,
that this
Charlie.
law is going to do anything. It's
Okay.
really not going to help us in any way. But at the end of the day, I feel that it's a waste of your guys' time. I think it's a waste of everything and especially being an NRA member, we'll just keep fighting the fight. The criminal is a criminal. If he wants an intention to hurt somebody, if he doesn't have a gun, he's going to have to use something else. And all these guns that are killing people and all these mass shootings are illegal guns most of the time, 99% of the time. And
Thanks, Carolyn.
you get what I'm saying?
Okay. Yep. Thank you. Thank
You're
you
welcome.
for,
Yeah,
Council President,
thank you for joining us
I
this
think it
evening.
needs to be
Listen, I understand.
clarified. The
I understand I had a lot of
Speaker did
frustration.
not-
I'm sorry.
Oh,
did not
your name,
identify himself
your
or
name
his
and,
relationship to the council member,
your
Oh,
address.
Carlos Soriento to Adair Road.
Thank you.
husband of.
He doesn't have to disclose that. I mean, he's a public resident and can speak. That, he did have to state his name, but he doesn't have to disclose his relationship. He's a resident, has every right to speak. Okay. We are all obviously, in my opinion, no one wants to politicize this. Councilmember Ash McPherson.
Okay. So I'm going to do this without emotion.
No, you're not.
I am a legal conceal and carry. I went through the background check. I went through the training of shooting. My firearms are locked up. I do everything I'm supposed to do. There's some of us, shouldn't say some of us, but there's some people out there that do not follow the laws. And those people out there do not and should not be holding guns. I have it within my district with the illegal guns. And we had a shooting today, and I think there was 9 casings up on 10th or 9th Street. This is a big issue for me. This is a big problem. I am a registered conservative, and I lean to the right, and I lean to the left when I need to. Something has to be done. And I do feel that stronger background checks should be done. I do feel that you should not just be able to walk into a store and pick up a gun and walk out. I feel there's things that need to be done. Exactly what, I don't know. I'm not a member of the NRA. I believe in my Second Amendment, and I believe that we all have the right to bear arms. This is very difficult because we're losing innocent lives for no reason at all. And there's a lot of mental illness. And people, when I said that recently, people have said I was full of shit, that it wasn't mental illness. This person doesn't have any mental illness. Well, anybody that can walk into a school, a church, a shopping center, anywhere else, and open fire on innocents, in my opinion, has a mental illness. So, and I think money should be spent in that respect there. I think we should be putting more money into our mental illness. I think we should be putting more money into our police departments to help, into our other departments within our cities, public safety, our mental departments in the city of Troy. I think we should look at the ARP funding and try to get more money that way. Mayor, you and I never see, I shouldn't say never, we don't always see eye to eye. But I am agreeing with you on this. And I think this needs to be done, so I'm going to be voting in favor of it.
Council President.
Councilmember Men.
So I grew up with guns, with my family, was both military and the cowboys. They love shooting stuff. I know how to shoot stuff. I, at one point in time, sold a replica of the Spencer repeating rifle. And my college graduation gift from my dad was a pair of 4440s, which I can barely lift. And both the Democrats and the Republicans in my family are, they like to shoot. They're in the country. They like to hunt. They like to target shoot. They also, across the board, do all the things that I think what we're asking Congress to pass already, because that's responsible gun owners do that. They secure their guns. They register, they train, they treat that weapon with respect. And you know what? That's what we want. But I also know that there have been moments in my family's life where depression and mental health and incredible stress has created a situation where we've had to take the guns out, because the other major thing that not having mental health checks, not having waiting periods that are consistent throughout the country is that suicide, and in particular men, kill themselves quickly. And, you know, our family, we work together and we take care of each other and look out for each other. But there are many people who don't have that network and don't have that love and support. And there are people who, you know, they will use any tool in their that they can get their hands on in a crime that's emotional and passionate and fast and doesn't think. And sometimes that's mental health, sometimes that's anger, slowing things down, being deliberate. New York does a good job requiring training. And I actually feel safer here because I know that there are training requirements and that there are waiting things. And I know that if I have a friend or I'm feeling stressed, I can't just go into Walmart, buy a handgun and shoot myself in the car. And there've been times, I think, in everyone's life where you have that moment and that crosses your mind. And so I do think that I think bill in front of Congress is not asking us to take all of our weapons, put them in a pile and set them on fire. It's saying, take a moment, treat this gun with incredible respect, because it's a dangerous tool. And so, you know, I think we need to move forward. And like Kim's district, blocks from my house, steps from my house, there have been gunshots and people killed. And I wonder if I'm going to walk to run an errand, if I'm going to come home sometimes. And if we can just do sensible things that chisels away at making it too easy, too casual. You know, this is something that guns are powerful objects, and they also can control us. And it's time that we controlled them.
Council President.
Councilmember Steele.
Thank you. I want to thank the mayor for introducing this. As I said last night, and he mentioned tonight as well, it's time for action, not silence. And this resolution is directed at the right place for a good first step. But it's not the end, and I think none of us expect it to be, and nor do we expect that it will solve the problem. But it does make us feel a little better to think that we're doing something. But it's a very complicated issue, and it's not just going to be solved, even with stricter background checks, lengthening the time. All of those make good sense, common sense. I don't see how it hurts a gun owner to wait 2 weeks to be vetted, or even longer. There's a process for learning to drive a car. Cars do kill, but they don't kill like guns do, and people with guns. So I agree that mental health, huge, no doubt about it. But one of the major problems right now is that we have a Congress that has refused to reinstate the ban on assault weapons that had been implemented during the Clinton administration. They allowed it to expire. It should be brought back. There's absolutely no reason why an 18-year-old should have access to an AR-15. I applaud the governor for suggesting that we increase the age for ownership of guns. I mean, if you can't buy a drink legally, why should you be buying a gun legally? I mean, that makes perfect sense. I would just directly, I appreciate the public comments, but I also think we need to be accurate. And I would direct you to the CDC website. Most gun fatalities do not occur in democratic states. There's a map that clearly shows that they are not. And so I would encourage you to look at the CDC website for that information. It's important that we share the facts. Sandy Hook took place. There was no bail reform then. So we can't point a finger at one thing. It is a complicated issue. It stems from the hatred that has developed in this country, the divisions, the culture that we lived through for 4 years, where it was okay to call people names. I have to make it political because
Councilmember Ash McPherson, Councilmember Steele is the floor.
this resolution directs individuals to do what should be done. They're holding up measures that could protect children's lives. And I don't know about you. I know some have children. I have grandchildren. It scares me to think that they have to go to school and be afraid. And I don't think anyone who owns a gun responsibly wants that kind of fear in young children. And so I think it's an issue we need to work together on. We need to listen, we need to talk, and we need to approach it on a broad spectrum. But this is a first step, and maybe we'll feel a little better when we leave here tonight. I hope we don't just forget it. Those children deserve. And I just would like to share something. I know the social media has been blamed for a lot of this in the days since the shootings, and now I've lost it. So it's a poem called "America is a Gun," and I would encourage you to look it up and read it, because what it basically says is this what we want our country to be known as? Something that murders children. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember
Council-
Steele.
Council
Thanks. There will be a public forum at the end. We have a second public forum. A few things. listening to everyone. I agree with a piece of everyone. We have had way too many moments of silence, way too many condolences. And the mayor said earlier, we are not immune. We aren't immune, but Troy is not immune either. And a couple things come to my mind. Actually 3 weeks ago, I received a message alert. There was a lockdown at my son's school. You can only imagine, I'm sure it's happened to many of us, council members orient to his children still in school, and just the things going through your mind. And obviously, James is so vulnerable. He would not be able to even duck, get out of the way. He would have no clue. So you can only imagine, what goes not just through my mind, but so many moms, dads, families' minds out there when you're told that the school is on lockdown. Here in Troy, we have had way too many incidents, and I know we're looking tonight, calling upon our Washington leaders, and I support HR 8. We already have one of the strictest background checks here in New York State. I support it. I support strengthening them. I also support the red flag law, which we do also have in New York State. And I'm not knocking anyone. If we want, I'm going to support this tonight. And I've heard a couple times, leave here feeling good. I don't feel good. I'm angry. Like a lot of people, I think many of us are angry. I heard it tonight, even the folks that don't support HR 8, they're angry. We're all angry. We've had enough. But as I look at it, and I agree with Councilmember Steele on the front, there's so many small pieces here, mental health issues. I'm very passionate about our SROs, and you cannot minimize the impact of our SROs. And they were going to be pulled out. If you recall, Councilmember Ash McPherson, we fought to keep the SROs in the school. And, speaking the past couple of days, I've reached out to Troy Prep. I've reached out to John Carmelo. I reached out to Tinny, who I call Tiny all the time, but I talked to Tinny, our Lansingburg school superintendent, and I did talk to them about potentially additional SROs. So I'm supporting asking our Congress, and it was mentioned the Republicans on the council, talk to your Republican. They're not going to listen to lowly council president me, but by supporting this tonight, hopefully it does send a message. And I join my fellow Democrat colleagues on the HR 8. But saying that, I support more SROs in our schools. I'm proposing, and I propose to join the mayor, and I talked to Tinny about putting together a meeting to get one additional in the Berg School District. They only have one now, so they would have two. And Troy has two, and one more would add three. And, I posted it earlier today, and people stated, we need more guns and law enforcement in our schools. SROs are much different than security guards. Our SROs, and my nephew was an SRO for a number of years. Mark Millington is a model SRO. Tinny talked about Officer Streeter, who's been out on disability, and he misses him horribly because right now they have a rotation going into the Berg schools. But the whole idea of the SRO is to be a mentor to the students, to identify mental health issues, to be a counselor to the students, to stymie and deter various incidents before they happen. Tinny told me he could identify with 2 or 3 incidents right off Jump Street on what that SRO was able to deter in the school district. Those are common sense laws that we can do at the local level. And don't get me wrong, we can implore our state legislators, get rid of bail reform. It's in their hands. We can implore and urge the Congress to pass HR 8. But at the local level, what are we doing? And that's what I want to focus on. I want to focus on more SROs. I want to use ARPA funding for potentially if our schools need more tools to make schools safer. Let's partner with them. Tinney, actually today, they were denied an after school childcare grant. It was for about $700,000 and the state denied him for the elementary. And I said, maybe we could partner with you with ARPA funds and figure out, because the Troy Library, Troy Arts is involved in this proposal. He sent me the proposal late today, which I'll forward to members, the mayor and the steering committee. So, you know, there are things that we can do here in Troy. Another one of my proposals, as I mentioned, expanding our city youth services. We all know how vital that is. Mental health treatment programs, our SROs I mentioned, using ARPA funding also. I spoke to Tinney about potentially partnering with them on capital improvements at schools, our childcare facilities. You should also know our non-public schools, they don't have an SRO. How can we partner with them? Not so much funding, but how can we become more of a partner to protect our kids, to protect our neighbors, because that's our job. And I just, don't get me wrong, I'm supporting tonight and it's well intended, but at the local level, we have had too much violence here in Troy. And we have to step up to the plate because, as the mayor stated earlier, we are not immune. We are not immune here in Troy, and we have seen way too much gun violence, gang violence, and we see it every week. Now it's become, oh, you know, there was a shooting over on 9th Street. There was stabbing over on 3rd and Congress. And I just want to say, I think the chief, he's trying everything humanly possible. I get it. He is. And 3rd and Congress, we've talked about more park walk and talk on the weekends, not just during the week. I know Council Member Mintz all over that also. So just from me, I'm angry, but also we need to also do what we can as leaders home here in Troy. Let's be more proactive and let's look to partner and do everything humanly possible to protect our kids and protect our neighbors. So I fully support HR 8. I don't want you to think that, and I'm not knocking anyone, but I want to bring it back home. And I want to make sure we're doing everything we can here in Troy. Thank you. Sorry, Councilmember Sorrento.
Stole the words out of my mouth.
I'm sorry. Go for it though. Come
I will
on.
support this though. It's really important as a mother that, you know, has children in the school district here. It's one of my fears every day about these mass shootings. And when I'm, especially with the one that just happened in Texas, and just seeing the details and hearing about the details and the measures that should have taken place to prevent this from happening. I mean, there were so many red flags with this. This monster posted this stuff on social media. Nothing happened. It took an hour for officers to get there. They left the doors unlocked. The door was unlocked. And that monster was able to get into that school. This is so scary as a mother, but I just want to say this. I mean, this is a good first step, but it's not going to stop this from happening. All it's doing is it's making it harder for law-abiding citizens to purchase firearms to protect their families, their loved ones, themselves. This is a good step though, but the main reason why I am supporting this is because what I'm hearing also is that minors, whatever happened while they were minors, that's concealed. And that shouldn't be when you're about to purchase a firearm. You need to know what they did as a child. If they got into any trouble, if there was any abuse involved, this needs to be released. So basically what I'm saying is, sure, this is a good first step, but this is not enough. All right. Not once did I hear about even putting metal detectors in these schools. I mean, yes, additional school resource officers, absolutely. But we got to do more. I mean, metal detectors. My daughter today, she came to me and goes, "Hey, Mom, they checked all of our bags." Awesome. I'm so happy that they did that, but that's still not enough. So that's all I have to say.
Thank you, Councilmember Soriento.
Council President,
Yes, Councilmember Conley Wilson.
like my colleagues, I definitely agree that this isn't just a one-pronged thing. We need to attack this at several different areas and several different access points. And many of these mass shootings that we're seeing across the country, they're motivated by hate. They're motivated by like extremism, white supremacy, and that's something that we absolutely need to talk about and we absolutely need to bring attention to and make sure, our young people, they know the dangers of that and they know that Troy is big enough for everyone. The United States, the world, it's big enough for everyone. We don't need to hurt each other. And in 2021, 90%, all but 3 of the mass shootings that we saw were due to this. It's horrible to see. I am proud of the council this year. We've absolutely pointed out instances where we've seen racism and we've brought attention to the public of these issues. So I don't think bail reform necessarily is going to prevent that because many of these shooters, this is the first time that they're being violent, or at least in their adult years. And I also just want to speak a little bit about mental illness. I agree. There are sometimes mentally ill people who are doing this, but we need to make sure that we're not alienating people with mental illnesses when we speak about this. Many of these folks who are causing harm, they clearly have anger issues, impulsive issues, and many other issues, but let's not lean into the stigma of mental health. I agree. We need to make sure that our students have the resources that they need to talk openly about these and ensure that we have mental health counselors and mentors and folks that these students can trust because we don't know the backgrounds of these students. We don't know if they've had traumatic events with police officers or with other folks that may be in the school. So we need a diversity of people that can reach out and really check in on these students and connect with them. And yeah, I think, and I also want to know a little bit about some of my personal experiences. I think it was the summer of 2020. It's the pandemic, so I'm just hanging out on my back porch, and I hear fireworks, or what I thought were fireworks. Eyewitness. I heard a death. It was right by DeFazio's 3 years ago, and I was devastated because they were young people, and I think a big part of that we don't always talk about is many of these instances happen not just because the child had access to that, but also because of poverty, because they don't see any way out. They're motivated. They're just motivated. That's the only option that they see. It is available to them. And so I think in addition to these very direct things, there's also these things that trickle down, like making sure that everyone's living a livable wage in Troy, making sure that our streets are clean and cared for, making sure that everyone knows each other. And, and also that means partnering with other municipalities, because it's not just people in Troy harming people in Troy, it's people coming into Albany from Troy, people coming in from Albany to Troy and Schenectady. And, and I want to emphasize, like, it's not just like the big stick kind of things that we need to do. It's also making sure that we're caring and nurturing our communities and ensuring that the most vulnerable people are protected and cared for. So I'm voting yes on this, obviously. And, I think we're on our way to really making change and making this space safer for everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Conley Wilson.
Council President.
Thank you, Councilmember Gully.
I think of those 19 children and those 2 adults in that room, and my heart breaks, because I think, how could anybody realistically do something like that to innocent people that had no conviction towards his lifestyle or where he was at that point? It was an accident that he was by that school, because he got in an accident with his car, and that's where he ended up, and he was loaded up. He was going to go somewhere. I think the real problem here is that we need to look at how to address this problem. Again, I'm in support of the resolution, because I feel that better background checks and longer periods of time to be realized what your background is a great idea. But then after you do that, somebody has to do that work properly to make that work. Everybody has to do their part. There are a lot of people out there that have a lot of knowledge on these individuals, as they did on this 18-year-old, that don't express their fears that this could, escalate at some point. And I think that we lose that ability to conquer the teenagers we have today that have lived the lives they've lived, and they go through that rage syndrome. And I think Councilwoman Conley Wilson explained it greatly when she talked about the rage and anger problem that we have. When I was a child and a long time ago, and you had a fight with somebody and you were done, and they said you were done, you would grab their hand, pick them up, and you walk away. Today, when people are hurting somebody, they want to hurt them severely, or possibly end their lives through these actions. And I think that rage and that strength that's showing through human beings lately is due to a lack of mentoring through their youth. I think parenting has become very, very weak in society, and I think it causes a lot of problems, not for all, but for a lot of people. It causes a lot of problems within their own families, and then they fear talking about it until it's too late, and that child goes out with that fear and does something drastic, like this young 18-year-old person did, who was bullied most of his life. We need to do better, and I think that we need to do better at the younger age. We need to start working now within our school systems. We need to provide education, mentoring, and even parenting for some of these children, to get them to know that somebody cares, somebody can help, and somebody can teach them to be better people. We need to bring back the core principles of life: respect, control. We have to have these things come back into our society to help change our youth that are going to be our teenagers tomorrow. As far as limiting the guns, you can limit the guns, and some of these situations will be exasperated, and I'm happy about that, because I think that we have to do our part. So this legislation certainly makes sense, and it certainly tells our government that we want change. But we also have to think about change within our own community, change within our own system, what we can do to be better to identify and look through our school system to see children that are having problems, children that are going through these problems and maybe even reaching the courts. We need to be more aware and understand and get to these kids before it gets too late. I'm very much in support of this resolution. I think, I hope it will have some touch on the problems that we have, but I really think that the basics are what we're missing, and the teenagers today have already lived through that part. I think we need to provide better parenting or better mentoring at an early age to really transition how people handle anger or frustration when they don't get their own way, or they don't get something they want, or they get backed into a corner. We need to teach better ways to handle that type of feeling, so they don't get enraged to go do something foolish like this. That 18-year-old kid knew nobody around him. He hurt and killed and maimed a lot of people because he was angry at something, but it wasn't those kids. We need to do a better job of getting in their heads early and finding out what makes them tick, and helping the ones that are having problems and struggling, and help the ones that are getting bullied. You know, my heart goes out. I don't know what to say. I'm devastated by what I see. Society has changed so much. It's almost sickening. Every day we seem to be insensitive to shootings because we used to hear, oh, there's another shooting in Troy. You know, oh, there's another shooting in Albany. We're insensitive to it because we see it so much. We need to be better than that. We need to embrace and grow our police force. We definitely need to get some of these organizations in our city sitting in our organization that are here because they're running mental health programs, they're running drug addiction programs, they're running health programs. They've got to get out behind their seat, and they got to start doing more in our communities and earn that right to be there. They've got to produce more. And I know they think they do a lot, but what they're doing is not affecting what we're seeing in our city. So maybe we need to change the game plan and look at things a little differently. And I'd like to see everybody just sit at a table someday and put this whole ball of crap in the middle and say, what can we do to eliminate it? So anyways, I'll stop talking for now because I go on for hours. My heart is broke over what's happening out there in the world. And I'll just tell you that I'm fully in support of this program, and I wish we could do more.
Well put, Councilmember Gully. Thank you. Further discussion? Maria, slow roll.
Councilmember Gully,
Yes.
Councilmember Ash McPherson,
Yes.
Councilmember Steele,
Aye.
Councilmember Min,
Yes.
Councilmember Conley Wilson,
Aye.
Councilmember Soriento,
Yes.
Council President Mentello.
Real quick, I want to thank the mayor. We would not be here tonight talking about it if you didn't bring the reso. So I appreciate that. I think many of us are angry and have been harboring some feelings for a little bit. And certainly, I think even for us with our residents, whoever's joined in this evening, it's been a really good discussion. So I want to thank you. I vote aye.
7 ayes, 0 noes. Resolution 68 passes.
We'll now open it up to the public, and you looked like you wanted to speak, and we would welcome you to the podium. If you could state your name and where you live.
West
that
Side,
would be
right over here on Cation.
awesome. Thank
I
you.
agreed with everything everybody said today, except you're not doing enough. You need more police on the streets. You're not going to get any of this done. You can't. King Street over here is 15 miles an hour. You can't stop people from driving 30 miles an hour over here. So what are you going to do? How are you going to keep people from excuse me. I get
okay.
passionate. I don't know what I'm saying.
It's okay.
Get ahead of
Take your
myself.
time. Take your time.
Please forgive me.
It's all right.
I kind of ramble sometimes.
We all
I'm
do.
concerned that more people are going to have mental illness. I agree with you. I agree with you. I understand where you're coming from. When you come talking about your kids. You want. You want them safe. You want to be safe. I understand that, but it's an emotional thing. Making this kind of thing, it can't be done through emotion. It has to be done with common sense. Put more police on the streets. Look for these people, get the illegal guns off the streets, and then maybe we can get something done. Watch out for those folks that have mental illness. Mr. Gully, Mr. Gully here, he said, we have to get to them early on. Somebody else over here said that too. Get to them. I go to Grace Baptist Church. I'm sure you've heard of it.
Sure.
We've had several. We had a young man that used to come to our church killed right over here on Lower Fifth Avenue. He was, what was he, 12 years old? 12 years old.
Hi, Sean.
All he was doing was hanging out with his friend. I shot. Yeah. I miss him too. I'm heartbroken over these shootings. But if we do it emotionally things emotionally, we're not going to get anything done. We got to use things common sense and common sense gun restrictions, taking our guns away or restricting us to have guns. You're giving in to the criminal, really. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir. We appreciate you joining us this evening. Thank you. Any further comments, discussion? Carlo, you can speak. It's the final public forum. You're a resident.
So I just want to let everybody know when I came up earlier, I was a little emotional. Is this thing working?
Yep.
All right. So yeah, it wasn't that I didn't agree with the mayor's resolution. I just think that a lot of these resolutions are going against legal gun owners. And I've listened to everybody here and everybody says there's other measures we need to take. We need to go within our school. We need to get hatred out of our schools. We need to get mental health issues taken care of. We need to do all that stuff. That is what I'm saying is let's not stop here. Perfect example. You said SRR officers. Let's get school resource officers there. I'm a firm believer in school resource officers going around the schools, taking care of things. Those are the things that we need to do now. This legislation, yes, I understand it was a first step, and I'm glad the mayor did it, but I just don't feel that that's enough. I feel that as someone who has 2 daughters, and I have 5 teenagers at my house right now, probably ringing on Maria's doorbell, but at the end of the day, it is what it is. But the one thing that I did hear today that I don't agree with is, Sue, unfortunately, you mentioned about 18-year-olds being able to carry conceals or access to weapons. The problem is we're sending our 18-year-old men and women out to fight for war. So I don't agree with that. And that really upsets me, especially when I know I have a lot in my family that are in the military and they suffer for what they did when they joined at 18 years old. And my wife's brother is one of them. All right. 22 people a day die from mental health illness to protect this country. And these are 18-year-old kids that sign up at 18 to get a college education and go to war. So please, I'd never want to hear it again. And I'm sorry, but it upsetted me. Thank you guys. I'm glad you passed it. I was for it. Didn't sound like it earlier. It's just,
Yeah.
sometimes I'm usually good at speaking when I have things, but sometimes
This
I
is
just get a little
a very
upset.
tough
Yeah,
issue.
it is for me.
Yeah.
Because not only having kids and seeing what's going on in the country, I mean, I agree with the mayor's resolution. I 100% did, but I also don't believe in, bail reform and not doing more. I think we need to do more in the community, especially with the shootings that we have here. Let's do it at home. We can't do it at a state level. We need to worry about Troy. You guys got elected for Troy. Let's just get it done. End of story.
And, Carlo, on the bail reform, bigger issue than us, but definitely contact your state legislator.
Oh, I have.
I know,
I was
but
talking to him
you know.
yesterday. So it's, me, it's just how I am. So
Yep.
I never shut up. So
And I do want to say.
I'm actually annoying, actually.
For the council's knowledge, veterans PTSD, it's absolutely horrible.
It is.
It's horrific.
is.
I spoke to a veteran, my other hat for the state senator I work for just a few days ago, and he was on the verge of suicide, and now he is growing cannabis, and he has found that cannabis is deterring him from opioids. He became addicted to opioids, was on the verge of suicide. And now he's opening a farm, and the recreational marijuana is actually, and he's hiring veterans to try to hopefully get them to think of other things than suicide. It's just a beautiful
Yes.
program, and
I don't know if you
it's,
see this, but I'm wearing a wristband that says 22 a day for that. That's how many veterans. a
yes,
day
he told me that.
That take it. And
It's
on
frightening.
on the other arm, I'm wearing my cousin's badge number, who also is gone. So
Thank you, Carla.
thank you very
Thank
much.
Thank
I
you.
just it was a
Yep.
touchy
I know.
subject.
I
I didn't
know.
want anybody to think that I didn't agree with them. You know,
Okay.
definitely didn't want you to think that I didn't agree with you, but
Thank you, Carla. Thank you. All right, we will take a motion to adjourn.
So move.
Motion, Member Steele, and second by Councilmember Gully. Discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn passes. 7 ayes, 0 no.